Hello, bright, beautiful, beloved soul friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect today. It is a blessed honor to share sacred healing space with you. I am super excited about today's topic. Over a decade of deep, intensive soul searching has led me to these insights that I'm about to share with you. And so, from my heart to yours, thank you for being here and thank you for being you. So today I'd like to talk about healing into God's presence and some particulars about that. And before we dive into that, let's talk about this word of God, okay? Maybe it's a trigger point. Maybe you connect with a higher power, but you don't necessarily refer to it as God. Maybe XYZ. So let's just talk about this word God to get us started, and then we'll dive into some really fun, awesome explorations. So William Shakespeare said it really well, and I'm paraphrasing him, but a rose, if it wasn't called a rose, it would still be a rose. If a rose went by any other name, its essence would still be that of a rose. You can't change the essence or the identity or the nature of something just by calling it something different. Things are what they are. Words do not define the things. Words are simply ways of discussing the conceptualization of things in life experience and such. And so by using different words, we do not change the nature of things. And so it's the same with God. God is this majestic, invisible, higher power, life force of the infinite galaxies. And whether you refer to it as God or higher power or the cosmos or the universe or Allah or whatever term you use to refer to this higher power of infinite energy from which all life force comes, no matter what you call it, it's still the same essence. We're all talking about the same thing, no matter what we call it. So I just want to kind of get that out there. It does not matter what you refer to when you talk about God or the energy that is sustaining life force, or however you want to describe it even. We're all talking about the same thing. Words do not change the nature of things. If a rose went by any other name, it would still be a rose. You can't change the essence of something by calling it something different. Okay? All right, so now that we're on the same page and we're all talking about God, no matter how we use words to refer to the concept of God, today I'd like to talk about 4 kind of main points. And these truths have brought so much healing, love, and light into my life. So thank you for creating space for me to share this with you, soul friends. So the first one is, who is God? The second one is, who are we in relation to God? And the third one is, how do we connect with God? And the fourth one is, what happens when we connect with God? And again, this could be the universe or higher power or however you want to term it. I kind of shift between the universe, the cosmos, divine intelligence, my higher power, God. It's all talking about the same majestic, infinite energy from which we all come from. Okay, so first one, who is God? Who is God? I believe that God is an infinite divine consciousness, a consciousness that is infinite. And so when we think about something being infinite, it's pretty difficult for our brain to grasp. And so it helps me to have a picture and kind of go to this picture and realize the unfathomableness of it all. And that helps me conceptualize to some degree the infinite extent of which God truly is. Because when we're here living in our world and our physicality, only able to be in a portion of things at a time, it's hard to even explore the ramifications or specifications or conceptualization of an infinite God. And so it helps me to kind of picture the universe. And so I'll picture my town, and then I picture the state that I live in, and then I picture the country that I live in, and then I picture the whole globe that I live in, and I'm like, oh my God, this whole world is infinite. Like there's a million billion universes each in each person, a universe in each person, a billion universes, a billion things going on, roads and cities and nature and this and that and books and technology and people and thoughts and education and hippies and beaches and mountains and like there's infinite of everything in this world. And then you picture the whole globe. And then you picture all the planets. Oh my God, there's all these planets and they're rotating, and then there's all these stars and there's all of this, and it's like an unfathomably vast expanse of space and energy and just an incomprehensible amount of everything. And then you realize that all of that is only 5% of the universe. That's how big God is. That's how infinite God is. That's how divine God is. That's how intelligent God is. And so God, the universe, is this infinite divine intelligence of pure vibration. So everything is vibration, from our thoughts and our feelings to our bodies and our beings to the world that we live in and experience. The planets, the stars, the atmosphere, the sun, the moon, trees, it's all vibration. God is a pure vibration of divine intelligence. Another way to perceive that is that God is a pure vibration of love. And love through divine intelligence is vibrating everything into existence. Life itself is a love song. This is a love song of God. This is a love song of God. This is a love song of God. You are a love song of God. God is an infinite divine intelligence of cosmic source that vibrates everything into existence through love. It's all a vibration of love. It's so beautiful. So God is the vibration of divine intelligence, cosmic consciousness, infinite love. And when you look at the world, like if you look at a picture of the planet, it's like so unfathomably beautiful. And then you think about all the individual specifics going on in that planet and all the bigger particulars going on in outer space. And it's all so beautiful. How could it be anything but love when you look at that, when you look at things from that lens of perspective? So who is God? God is a pure vibration of love. God is cosmic consciousness, divine intelligence. Okay, the second part, who are we in relation to God? I love this one so much. So, talked about in some of my videos, we have our consciousness and we have our neurobiology. They are not the same concepts. And I discovered this during my case study while I was trying to understand the neuroscience of dissociative identity disorder. And in this process, I ended up witnessing firsthand the distinction between my consciousness and my neurobiology. And it was the most profound experience of my life. And then I later found out that neuroscience has actually discovered this stuff where consciousness is not generated by the brain. Consciousness is this separate essence that science can't explain. There's no real connection between consciousness flowing and the science of being. And so neurobiology is like the science of our physical existence, but that's not who we are. Consciousness is our self-essence flowing through neurobiology and having an experience in physical form, but they're not the same thing. So consciousness flows through neurobiology, but it is not the neurobiology. They're not the same thing. And consciousness is who we are. When you say, I am, and whatever follows after that, you're talking about you. That you that's in this experience is consciousness. And how you're experiencing life is through neurobiology. And so you are consciousness having an experience through neurobiology. So neurobiology is this stuff, okay? And we know the science of it. We know that, certain scientific particulars happen and it creates life. We know the science of how we come into this particular experience. But where does consciousness come from? If consciousness is not neurobiology, where does this come from? If consciousness is who we are, and who we are is not our neurobiology, then where do we actually come from? We come from God. Consciousness is God. Each of us is a piece of the consciousness of God. We are each a piece of cosmic consciousness. We are each a piece of divine intelligence. We are each a piece of God essence. You are a perfect expression of the divine. Your consciousness is a part of God's consciousness. Your consciousness is a part of the cosmic divine intelligence that vibrates worlds into existence. That's who you really are. That's who consciousness is. That's who we are as self-essence within experience. So consciousness, neurobiology, not the same thing. We know where neurobiology comes from. Where does consciousness come from? The infinite galaxies, the infinite universe. And another cool thing, if energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but is merely transferred from one form to another, which is just your basic law of thermodynamics that applies to like all the different everythings of life. Neurobiology, once it dies, it decays. It is no longer a living thing, etc. And so that's where that energy goes. The energy of our neurobiology, we know where that goes. But if neurobiology and consciousness are not the same thing, then where does our consciousness go when we die? It goes back into the infinite divine intelligence of the cosmos. And because of that, our consciousness is an immortal, eternal, infinite being. Because we are a part of the infinite, immortal, eternal God. Our consciousness is a part of God essence. And so I personally believe in reincarnation. I believe that I have lived before this life and I will live after, because I am consciousness. And energy can't be created nor destroyed. It just moves into different spaces. And so once the neurobiology is not engaging anymore, my consciousness will still be something, because you can't destroy energy. You can't destroy consciousness. So who are we in relation to God? We are a part of God. We are not separate from God. God is not outside of us. God is inside of us, in our consciousness. Our consciousness is this self-essence flowing through our neurobiology, having a personal experience. But our consciousness is separate from neurobiology. And while our neurobiology is completely human, our consciousness is a part of God. We are sculpted in the image of God because our consciousness is a piece of God. You are a piece of God, and I am a piece of God, and we are each expressions of divine perfection. We are each an expression of divine perfection. You are perfect as you are because you are a part of God's consciousness. Okay, so who is God? Who are we in relation to God? How do we connect with God? So if we are a part of God, and the part of God that we are is consciousness, then we connect with God by connecting with our consciousness. So most of the time, we're blending with our neurobiology. And when our neurobiology is saying stuff, we're over here, away from our consciousness, agreeing with our brain and our body. Our body says, you should be worried about this. And our consciousness is like, oh crap, I'm worried. And in that moment where we blend with our neurobiology, we feel some sense of separation. It's an illusion, though. There's only love. Separation is an experience where our neurobiology is lacking love where it needs it. Okay, there's only one kind of energy in personal experience, and that's love. Anything that does not feel like love or look like love within our personal experience of life being processed through our neurobiological applications of consciousness is just a space inside of our neural wiring that's lacking love. It's the same thing with hot and cold. There is no such thing as coldness. Anything that feels cold is simply a space that's lacking heat. There's heat and there's a lack of heat. And anything that lacks heat feels like coldness. It's the same thing with love. Everything is love, and if it doesn't feel like love, it's just a space that's lacking love. Fear is not a real energy. It's an experience because it is a space of energy within our neurobiological applications of consciousness that's processing life experience that does not have love where it needs it. And so when we heal ourselves through self-love, we restore our beings to the state that we were always intended to live in, which is a pure vibration of love as perfect expressions of the divine. So, how do we connect with God? We connect with God by connecting with our consciousness, which means healing our neurobiology and separating our self-essence from that neurobiology, which means grounding in our observational awareness, helping our parts of consciousness, healing our neurobiology, and prioritizing personal power embodiment so that we can transform life experience from the inside out. In that process, we unite our self-essence, we heal and uplift this body vessel that we're living in, and then we can experience God in a more profound way than we ever imagined possible. Because God connects with us, or we connect with God through our consciousness. And so when we have a space of stillness, for example, we can feel that loving presence of God because we're connected with our consciousness, which is a part of God. We're not separate from God. God is living inside of us because we are, our consciousness, our self-essence is a part of God. And so we connect with God by connecting with our consciousness. And we do that by separating our consciousness from our neurobiology so that our identity is independent of experience. And in that process, from the power of our observational self, we liberate our consciousness and heal our neurobiology, and then everything changes because life experience comes from inside of us. Outside stuff is just stimulus. How everything is processed depends on our neurobiological applications of consciousness, which is how our self-essence is flowing through and experiencing self and life through our brain and our body system and the wiring that upholds it. Okay? And so life experience comes from inside of us. And so if there's something that doesn't feel loving in experience, it's coming from the way our own brain and body are producing messages and being projected into our personal experiences of consciousness. And so when we transform our life experience from the inside out, we can experience God in deeper ways because then we're connected with our consciousness. And in doing that, we are connected with God because we are a part of God. And in that process, neurobiology heals so that everything flows in a state of love. There's peace, there's relaxation, there's joy, there's hope, there's prosperity, there's optimism, there's intentionality, there's compassion and gentleness and gratitude. And those experiences are just naturally generated from the inside out. So we connect with God by connecting with our consciousness. And our consciousness is a pure vibration of light, love, and presence. And so one way you can practice this, because it is, of course, a gradual journey. It might take years and years to get to a place where we're feeling God all the time. And that's okay. That's the beauty of the journey. That's the beauty of being in this life experience. And so in the process, in the meantime, while things are undergoing that magical healing, you can use a mantra of, I am love and presence, nothing else. is real, or nothing else has anything to do with me, or everything else is just an illusion. Or you can just focus on that first part. I am love and presence, because that's who consciousness is. Our unconscious parts live in the abstracts of our brain and our body system, and they are just this pure vibration of presence. They can literally only be in one moment at a time. And then our subconscious parts are a pure vibration of love. They are embodiers of love, givers of love, observers of love, and protectors of love. They are love. Love sculpts them into being. Love is the true essence of their nature, the identity of who they are. And so our parts of consciousness within the experience, and 95% of our self-essence, are love and presence. And then the I, that I am, is the observational self, who is light. Because through our observational self, we have an ability to illuminate aspects of ourself and experience. We can observe and respond with conscious presence. And so this is the light of who we are. So we are light, love, and presence at the core of our being, at the core of our consciousness, who is our self-essence, our true beings, our true selves. And so when we can connect with an identity who is light, love, and presence, we connect with our consciousness above the noise of our neurobiology. And so you can practice this with a mantra of I am, which refers to the light that I am. I am love and presence. Or I am present with love. Or I love being in loving presence with my own self. You can phrase that however you want. Or I am light, love, and presence. Light flows through me, love flows through me, and I am present with the light and love flowing through me. Anytime you connect with that energy, you're connecting with your consciousness. And when you connect with your consciousness, you have an ability to connect with God, the divine source from which we all come from. And the beautiful place of that is when we're connected with ourselves, we're connected with life. We're connected with all of life, because life flows through us. We're not separate from it. The beauty of life, the hope of life, the truth of life, the oneness with all, that comes from being one with ourselves, one with our consciousness. Because when we connect with our consciousness, we're connected with the divine source that vibrates everything into life. When I'm connected with source, I'm connected with you. When I'm connected with source, I'm connected with everyone's consciousness. When I'm connected with source, I'm connected with every flower in the world. When I'm connected with source, I'm connected with every planet in the galaxies. When I'm connected with source, I'm connected with every star in the world. So when we connect with our consciousness, we're connecting with that divine source of divine perfection, life essence that flows through everything. And then we are connected with all that is. And there's a deep sense of connection from within. And we no longer seek connection outside of us. We no longer try to do this and go here and buy that and have that and do this to feel a sense of connection, because we are connected from within. And then life is this peaceful, naturally flowing miracle. It's a wonderland to be in. Heaven is not a place, it's a dimension, a state of consciousness. And when we're connected with the love and light and presence that we are, we can connect with a sense of heaven. It's kind of a different topic for a different day, but wanted to throw that in there. So, who is God? Who are we in relation to God? How do we connect with God? What happens when we connect with God? Part of it is being connected with life, being connected with life force, life energy, love flowing through everything. Another thing that happens is our perspectives start to shift. And as our perspectives start to shift, we have this opportunity to see the world and ourselves through a deeper lens of love. And so neurobiology often has this pain trapped inside of it, and there's a lot of lack, a lot of spaces that don't have love that need it. And from that, there can be a lot of different things, like comparisons, or feeling inadequate, or feeling anxious, or feeling depressed, or feeling lonely, or feeling dissociated, or feeling disconnected, or worrying, or doubting, or questioning, or fearing, or the list goes on. And so when we start to connect with our consciousness and the divine love of God, we start to heal some of those perspectives, because we are not our perspectives. Our perspectives are generated through neurobiology, but we are consciousness. And so once we start to heal, our perspectives shift to divine perspectives. And so one example is, like, if you're out in nature, you can look at everything, okay? So you got these little teeny tiny bugs, and there's like 100 different kinds of them, and they're all have these intricate details, their own style of wings and their own shapes of their heads and their own way that their legs come out of their body, and unique tongues that come out and lick pollen, and like there's all of these microscopic miracles. And then there's all these plants. There's individual grass blades that each have their own little detail to them, and then there's all these different kinds of trees, and they have different shapes and sizes of their trunk and different details and textures of their leaves, and they produce different types of flowers and pine cones and seeds, and then there's the earth, and there's all these textures of dirt and rock, and there's just like all of these things, and there's so much complex detail in just one little space in an infinite world. And all of it is peacefully, symbiotically coexisting without any judgment or comparison or lack or doubt or restlessness or anything. There's just this perfect life. There's just this perfect life. And they aren't rushing, and they aren't hurrying, and they aren't comparing, and they aren't bickering, and they aren't complaining, and they aren't doubting, and they aren't fearing. They're just living. They're just alive. They're just being. They're just expressing. And then that perspective can lean into all realms of life. Every aspect of the human experience can be perceived as a divine expression of God, because we are all a part of the consciousness of God, just here expressing and experiencing and evolving and expanding and enjoying and whatnot from a vibration of love, because consciousness is love. And from that space, there is no lack, there is no judgment, there is no comparison, there is no worry, there is no fear, there is no doubt. There is just ease and bliss and joy and love and hope and abundance and prosperity and health and well-being, and enough of every good thing to go around for everyone. The illusion of lack dissolves when we heal into God's presence, which is being united with our consciousness, who is light, love, and presence, separate and distinct from the neurobiology through which we are encountering life. And so when we start to heal into God's presence, when we start to connect with the divine essence we are, when we start to connect with our being who is a part of the consciousness of God, we can start to see the world and ourselves through a lens of love, where it's all just divine beauty. And the fear starts to melt away. And we start to just rise up into a greater vibration of being, a greater vibration of experiencing. And it's such a wonderland to be in. And then every little thing is so beautiful. You see a bird flying overhead, and it's like, oh my God, look at that divine expression of God go. And you see a little ladybug on a flower. Oh my God, look at the complexity of it. It's like the veils have been taken away, and everything just looks and feels like love. And it's just sacred presence in one moment at a time. The mind never wanders to the past, never wanders to the future. There's only now, and there's only love. And there's just divine perfection. You are divine perfection, beloved soul friends. Thank you so much for joining me for this Conversations with Kristin. It's been a blessed honor to connect with you. If you would ever like to connect through a one-on-one consciousness consulting call, or explore any of my other healing journey offerings, or even just find out more about who I am and what I do, please visit KristinWindsor.com. I also have a bunch of freebies, free gifts from my heart to yours with loving empowerment on my website. So please feel free to check out KristinWindsor.com to explore more about me and the magic that I offer. It would be a blessed, sacred honor to connect with you along your magical, miraculous healing journey through life. I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day, beloved soul friends. I am sending you the highest love and the deepest light. Namaste. The divine love and light in my miraculous consciousness. See and honor the divine love and light in your miraculous consciousness. Thank you for being here, beloveds, and thank you for being you. I will see you next time.